Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I would like to share with you my final thoughts on the Terzola Knives ATCF Lite. I picked this guy off of Blade HQ, one of my favorite online retailers, and it is currently still available. There are a crap ton of different color options. This is just one of very few. The price is currently $99.95. I will say that this is definitely well justified. Seeing the fit and finish and even the quality of the edge and blade material, I'd say it's money well spent. So I'll just tell you guys right now up front, without having to have you guys wait to the end, I do recommend this knife for sure. Let's go over some of the specs that they provide over here. So overall length of this knife is 6.9 inches, so it is definitely on the smaller side. Blade length is 3 inches on the dot, cutting edge 2.9 inches. Blade thickness is 0.11. Blade material is Nitro V, which I am completely okay with Nitro V. I've owned multiple knives in this blade material, and it performs great, in my opinion, at around 20 to 25 degrees, the cutting, angle. Excuse me, the edge angle, and then between like a 400 and 600 grit, and then some lights dropping. For me, this is what I find works best for a lot of the knives in Nitro V that I've owned in the past. This is a drop point. It's flat ground. Maybe not completely flat ground, but because it does have this little swedge part up here with a little fuller. And yeah, just the rest of it, it's just blackened steel hardware, liners. It has very thin G10 scales. The weight of this guy is 2.8 ounces. So it is, yeah, definitely holds up to its name. It is a very light knife. It does feel a little handle heavy, and that is mainly because of all the steel liners. So the steel liners don't have weight relieving, and there could have been, if this was really truly trying to be a light knife, like a light EDC knife, then yeah, there really should have been some internal, weight relief off these steel liners. So, it's not a big deal. It's still, like I said, overall a really light knife, but it's not as light as a bug out, and that's what I'm actually going to be comparing this to a lot. Little things here and there that I noticed that were similar, at least to how it feels in the hand. So let's go ahead and do a couple size comparisons so you guys can visually see what this little guy is all about. So this is a Demco 80-20.5. Here's that. Let's do my Civivi Elementum. Very similar. Oh, and if I didn't mention before, this knife is actually produced by the We Knife Co. Civivi company. So, which is, it's nice to know that, because they do produce quality knives at a pretty reasonable price for sure. Let's do 2 Spydercos. This is my PM2, and this is Para 3. So yeah, there's that. Definitely a whole lot smaller than both of these guys for sure. Pretty much the same cutting edge length with the Para 3, but there's definitely a much more comfortable handle in the Para 3, in my opinion. They both do have, flat G10 scales, but the Para 3 is just a little bit more hand-feeling, in my opinion. We have here the Benchmade Osborne 940 and the Benchmade Bug Out. So there's that. Let's get the 940 out of here. And here's a Bug Out. So cutting edge is pretty close, but the Bug Out's actually has just a tiny bit more cutting edge, nothing crazy. There's a little bit more handle length, but the Bug Out is still significantly lighter. But just within use, it is something that I've noticed that it does remind me of the bug out, oddly. Let me know if you guys that own this knife and at the same time own a bug out, if it makes you think of it or not. So that's just something that I noticed. Going over the hardware of this guy. So here we have a nice little decorative pivot on the show side. This is also, you could switch the clip around. It has this little like super deep carry clip, just a bent steel clip, says Terzola, going down, goes into the pocket really well. I don't feel it in the hand. It could stand to be a hair bit shorter, but it's all right. It's still pretty short for the most part. The body screws here are T6. There are 2 under here, and well, let me first say, this knife has a lot of parts, a lot of little parts to it. And it's cool to see from like a nerdy perspective, seeing all the little parts that, to make what looks like a very simple design on the surface, but there's actually a lot that went into this. So, and all these things have to work in unison to be able to, make this thing not, unnecessarily rattle around and actually having a pretty decent action. So this does have ceramic ball bearings and a ceramic detent ball. There is no ramp, but it doesn't really need one. The access to the liner here, it doesn't look like much, and it is pretty slim in there, but the disengagement is extremely light. There is 0 lock stick, 0 lock rock, and just movement in pretty much all directions. It's pretty darn solid. So, and I've cranked down this T8 pivot back here a good bit, so the action won't be as smooth as maybe one of the silver bladed ones, because this one does have a black coating on it, and that did have to wear in a little bit. One thing I do enjoy about this knife is that there's hardly anything on here. There's like hardly any markings. The only thing you'll see on the blade, at least, is the Nitro V steel stamp right there. It's tiny, you can hardly even notice it, but it's there. And then the Terzola down here in the clip. It's a cool little touch. I don't mind it at all. And they do have only a handful of production models, so it wouldn't be too confusing, to know that this one's like the ATCF Lite, because while this is not the biggest departure from a lot of their other designs, it is distinctly its own little thing, right? So I've owned a other Terzola knife before, also produced by Blade HQ. I mean, by Blade HQ. It was produced by the We Knife Co. company, and it was sold by Drop, which is now Caviso Outdoor. I've long since gotten rid of that thing because it just wasn't for me, but this guy is definitely going to be a keeper as far as I know, until eventually I feel like I need to gift it to somebody. It's something that I've been doing recently with a lot of my family members, a lot of the guys in my family that want to know why the hell I put so much time and effort and money into knives. And so I've been gifting a lot of my budget-oriented knives, because I'm not going to give a non-knife person a multi-$100 knife. I'm gonna give them something that floats around 50 to $100, right? And they get it, they use it, and they're like, okay, cool, yeah, makes sense. I'm starting to get it. This is definitely one of those knives. So $100, I definitely wouldn't shy away of giving this to a family member sometime in the future, after I feel like I've handled it enough, used it enough, and just don't use it anymore at a certain point. And that's typically what ends up happening when I give away one of my knives. It's not that I get tired of it and I don't like it. It's just that I feel like it might make somebody else happy, and it's a good feeling to give. It really is, for sure. Besides that little rant, let's go over a couple things that I don't like about this knife. So, as I mentioned before, with all the little parts that it takes to put this knife together, I like it on one aspect because it's cool seeing all the little intricate things that make it up. But also I don't like it because if I want to do the level of maintenance that I like doing on my other knives, it's really, really tedious for this knife because there are so many little parts to it. So it looks simple on the surface because of the, just the simple overall lines and, scales. These scales cover up a lot, but there's also this G10 matchy back spacer that, has, screws in there and little barrels and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So I don't really like that. I wish it was constructed a little bit more simpler, a little bit easier to clean, take care of, keep up with maintenance. Another thing I don't like is that everything is pretty flat about this thing. If you look down, it's flat, right? But if you look over here, it's all flat. But then you have this over here that's like this bulbous pivot screw. That could have been flat. That should have been flat, in my opinion. Just to keep up with the overall aesthetic. It was like it was a part that was forgotten about, or it was like a last minute, like, oh, we ran out of the flat ones, let's just throw something else there. So I don't really have anything here that I mean, yeah, I guess we can pull up one of these guys. So here I have my Para 3, and you can see it's continuously flat on one side, as is the other. And I mean, that's a really nitpicky thing. But that's it. I mean, detent is great on this. Action is great. Definitely this fuller right here. It is sharp and very grabby, and it is meant, for you to use the skin of your fingers to get in there, and it just flies out. It's very comfortable. This isn't a knife that will fatigue you from, opening and closing, just being a freaking couch ninja. So here is the flipper tab. It's a very minimal little flipper tab. I like the way that it's angled, it doesn't protrude too much. It has a total of, what is that, like 3 jumps. Works just fine. It's not something that I would recommend chopping or getting rid of. I suppose you could if you wanted to. So that's really it. Centering is perfect. I already went over being able to switch this around. It's only tip up carry, of course, but at least it's left and right. You can put, there's a little lanyard post down in there, and I think that lanyard post is what rattles around. I hope you guys can hear that. I have the same issue on my Spyderco Smock, and that's a $200 knife. Yeah, don't really like that, and I get it, this is a $100 knife, but still, it's a thing. I don't really know how to fix it. If any of you guys know how to deal with that, because I don't know, I tend to like fondle my knives a lot, especially when I get a new one and I'm using it a lot, and sometimes I do little things like this, and I just the rattle just kind of bugs me. It's a really nitpicky thing, but overall the design is quite wonderful. It is very comfortable in the hand for the most part. It is a small to medium knife for sure in my hands. I have large XL hands but slim fingers, so I am able to hold on to other things and not be too uncomfortable about it. There is some jimping back here. It is very, very light. Doesn't really serve a whole lot of a purpose, but this is supposed to be a light to medium use knife. I would have appreciated some jimping here on the spine, because the aesthetic of the Terzola company is tactical. These are supposed to be tactical designs, and just because it's a light model doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve proper jimping. So I mean, I'm not expecting anything over here, but it would have been cool. Sorry, my older dog is barking at the puppy. Yeah, just maybe some jimping up here on the spine of the blade. I don't think it would look too funky because, you know, like, you would buy this knife understanding that it's made by a tactical designer. So I think it'd be pretty cool if it did have some jimping on the spine. The little hump that's right here, it's a design choice, it's an aesthetic thing. If you don't like it, don't buy it. And if you buy it and it doesn't feel good in your hands, then just return it. But in my use, I'm able to comfortably, you know, use it for the most part, and yeah, it works great. So that's really all I gotta say about this thing. I did sharpen it right before making this video, and it is at my typical like 600 grit, and I think the angle was like 25, something like that. So I guess it definitely gets the job done for sure. Oh, slipped out of there a little bit. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's a drop point blade. It's not gonna hold onto material like, you know, like something like that, like a Warncliffe or anything like that. But at the end of everything, I would definitely say that this is money well spent. This is a very wonderful design, and yeah, I definitely do recommend it for sure. So check this guy out while they're still available and, you know, still in production. There are a multitude of colors to choose from. I love this design, and there are times where I would like to have maybe picked up a different colorway, but I'm perfectly happy with this. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I will be linking the Blade HQ link down in my description, and have a wonderful day.